Hey guys, we're back with the next episode of our Sryth Fantasy Text-Based RPG. Last time we were over here with the Border Rangers, hanging out with them. We faced a Dormic, among other things. So now we're here at the Border Ranger compound, and we're going to look into some adventures here. So thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Let's just go. So I'm like level 1 status, I'm sure, so we're not gonna do that. I've already spoke to Naruldor, so let's hit the adventure. Disorder in Milban. As you square off against the hulking, belligerent drunkard, you vow to make every effort to keep yourself out of his crushing grasp. Hit it. While passing through the village of Milban on a routine patrol only a few miles east of the Border Ranger outpost, you're approached by a group of small children who surround you and politely but loudly ask if they might take turns sitting on your horse. The children, 6 of them in all, jump up and down excitedly as they stare at you, waiting what you can only believe they assume will be an affirmative response. Sure. The children are overjoyed when you agree to their pleas, and after climbing down from the saddle, you begin hoisting them one at a time on the back of your patient and loyal mount. The pure joy with a simple act as eliciting the boys and girls of Midland makes you forget about any minor inconvenience or delay the episode has caused you. As you're lifting up the last of the children, you're startled by a loud and abrupt unnerving sound of splintering wood. Step your head in the direction of the stables on the opposite side of the lane and immediately find yourself eyes locked upon an unpleasant scene. Standing amidst the splintered remains of a rotted stable door, towering over a prone and terrified man, as easily half his own size, is perhaps the largest men you've ever seen. Mounds of muscle bulge out of every inch of the man's monstrous torso, atop which is set a massive balding head. Cruel, dark, close-set eyes dominate the center of the man's face, which is twisting into a frightful reddening mask of rage. The hulking man shoots down his right arm and grasps a fistful of prone man's tunic. He then roughly pulls the man back onto his feet. The monstrous creature, easily 3 times your own size, begins violently shaking his hapless victim, all the while roaring at him in a voice that's obviously been slowed by the drink. As the giant of a man draws back his fist and fist, you suddenly realize he could easily kill his intended target, perhaps with a single blow. Without a single thought, you leap into action. Telekinesis. You call upon your power of telekinesis and focus on the raised fist of the hulking, drunken man. A powerful blast of telekinetic energy swiftly smashes into his clenched hand and sends him toppling backwards onto the ground. You rush forward and bravely place yourself between the fallen giant and his terrified victim. With a startling agility and a surprising swiftness, the massive man leaps to his feet and reaches out and staring you in his powerful, crushing grasp. You cry out in agony as the hulking man tightens his massive arms around you. You realize that unless you're able to break free of his powerful grasp, he may well squeeze you to death. A visage as his crushing grip of the enemy takes an unhealthy toll on you. At last, when having suffered from ill effects of his powerful grasp, you manage to slip free and land on your feet. The hulking drunkard spits a steam of curses at you and rushes forward, striking at you wildly with his massive fist. You quickly find yourself locked in a fight for survival against the hulking, enraged drunkard. Despite the obvious peril his size and strength present, you have no desire to cause him any permanent harm. As you square off against the hulking, belligerent drunkard, you vow to make every effort to keep yourself away from his crushing grasp. Your enemy lays a particularly brutal stroke on you. Subdued. Battered into submission in a remarkable display of your formidable combat prowess, the hulking, inebriated bully collapses at your feet and lapses into an unconscious slumber. Breathing heavily and thankful to have escaped the melee with no broken bones, you step back and are surprised to discover that the rather sizable crowd has quietly gathered in the middle of the lane to watch the brutal spectacle. Several of the villagers step forward and congratulate you on putting down a man who has become something of a local menace. He means no real harm, says a man who immediately takes note of the wooden brooch resting upon your chest. The drink gets the better of him, as you no doubt can tell. Willibor is his name, and you might not believe, but he's no real harm, croaks the man whose life Willibor might easily have ended. He almost killed me. That second time inside of a month, you always make an excuse for him. As dozens gathered villagers begin arguing amongst themselves, you turn and slip back to your horse, who's been quietly watching the grim proceedings from the other side of the lane. With the angry voices and the villagers rising into the air behind you, and not at least bit concerned that you haven't You weren't thanked for having luckily saved a man's life. You ride swiftly out to the mill bin, eager to return to the outpost where you hope to enjoy a flagon of wide leaf ale and a bowl of venison stew. At the as the chaotic din fades away behind you, cannot but wonder how many times the scene you just witnessed or drawn into will be played out in Millbin. Woodsmanship, horsemanship, law, weaponry, and archery. Is there more adventures here? I thought this was just going to be... I've done 2. I thought they were just going to be... How do I do that? Oh. Okay. Let's save. Let's hit up more adventures. A temple at Fallen Oaks. A chance encounter near the Fallen Oaks, a dense section of old forest in the northern edge of the Fernwind Wood, leads you to a sinister gang. In the company of a young but highly skilled border ranger by the name of Tav Kithson, you're just beginning the final leg of a routine patrol of the perimeter of Fernwind Wood when you discover something that makes you think your return to the outpost will be delayed. At the bend in the well-worn road that runs across the northern edge of the forest, you spot a pair of spear-wielding cave goblins darting into the thick of the wood. You're not certain if the wretched creatures have seen you, but Tav seems to think they have not. Come on, Allison. Let's see what this dude is up to, he says, smiling the crooked smile he's become known for back at the compound. He claps his hands on the hilts of his long sword and strokes the neck of his horse. I've been itching to put this to use. You might. No, let's go. The patrol has to this point been mundane, and while you're eager to find out what the goblins may be up to so far for the foothills they normally inhabit, you remind Tav that you need to proceed with caution. He agrees, and after moving your horses to safe location near the road, the two of you set off on foot into the dense section of the Fernwood Wood known as Fallen Oaks. You pick up the goblins' trail not far inside the edge of the wood. Tav is amazed by how quickly you managed to begin tracking them, and eagerly moves through the dense forest, staying several feet behind you as you follow the telltale signs of the goblin passing. It doesn't take long to catch up the 2 goblins you spotted on the road. After skirting a large patch of trees that had been toppled by some recent high winds, you find yourself at the edge of an area dominated by a large, crumbling stone structure. An ancient temple of Voranthan, I think, says Tav as he steals forward and crouches down beside the thick trunk of one of the fallen trees. That's our two little fellows, little friends now. Voranthan. The Voranthan and the Alvari were the first and only 2 races of men to ever appear in Sryth. Both of the ancient races are seafaring folk who sailed out of the west and arrived in northern Sryth in the middle of the epic that historians refer to as the Age of Storms. Ancient lore tells of a giant cataclysm that took place far to the north over the Sundran Sea and lands uncharted. In the wake of this profound disaster, both Voranthan and the Alvari were forced to flee south, brave the vastness of the ocean until at last they arrived on the shores of northern Sryth. Voranthan were a warlike people, swift to anger and ever distrustful of the Alvari. The Alvari had in their midst sorcerers who managed to master the magical energy abundant in the New World. The Voranthan could not harness this magical energy, and they were forever resentful of the Alvari for the advantages its power given them. While the Alvari spread far and wide throughout the world of Sryth, the Voranthan became bogged down in disputes and wars amongst themselves. Thus, while the Alvari civilization thrived and spread its influence, the civilization of Voranthan barely managed to survive. Physically, the Voranthan look very much like Alvari, save for their hairs are always jet black. The pupils and irises of their eyes are the same jet black, giving them a very distinct look that is difficult to disguise. Today, the realm of Hadrigan is the only place of Sryth that true descendants of Voranthan make their home. Hadrigan, the realm of Hadrigan, the people of the vast grassland realm, the only true descendants of Voranthan that still walk the world of Sryth. Hadrigan is not a unified nation by any stretch of the imagination. 5 city-states of varying political persuasions and military strengths struggle to maintain their proud Voranthan heritage while trying to maintain diplomatic ties to the other realms of northern Sryth. The unofficial capital of Hadrigan is the city of Aeginek on the north shore of Aegean Sea. It is Aeginek that the leaders of the various city-states that make up Hadrigan meet on an irregular basis. The meetings meet to foster a sense of unity among the Hadrigonian people. Hadrigan has found itself at odds and often at war with virtually every nation of the northern Sryth at various times of the last 1,000 years. In the War of the Six Kings, A united Hadrigan allies itself with Refleir the Defiler and the wicked sorcerer king of Narok. The three nations of Sryth ultimately defeated the combined forces of Narok and Hadrigan, and in the aftermath of the people of Hadrigan rose up and cast down the king, breaking the nation into the city-states that make up its political landscape today. Hadrigan remains a nation that should be considered dangerous to outsiders. Its borders, although easily traversed across only by the bold and those with specific provable business, it remains a harsh land where the hard living and genuine mistrust of foreigners has become a way of life. Interesting. You join Tav and stare ahead at the overgrown ruins. There, to the west of the massive, dilapidated stone building, stand the two goblins you followed into the wood. Suddenly, 6 more of the creatures step into the view and move up to meet their returning kin. The goblins are all clad in armor, leather, and chain, and each wields either an axe or a short sword. Nice looking lot right there, said Tav, glancing as if to gauge a reaction. I'd wager they're planning a raid on the outpost. I'd also wager we can make it so it never happens. You and Tav agree that putting an end to the gathering menace here and now is the best solution. Tav suggests that the two of you invade the ruins from opposite sides and swiftly engage the goblins. As like as not, they'll scatter when they see us, he says. You're not quite so certain they will. Sure. Tav flashes a crooked smile and promptly sets off for the west side of the ruins. You watch the younger ranger move stealthily through the forest until he's no longer in sight. Then you sneak forward and prepare to make your way into the crumbling ruins. Sounds like a cave. When Tav is taking position on the far side of the ruins, the two of you make a cautious but steady approach into the shadowy remains of the temple, knowing all too well that there could be many more goblins than you might expect to encounter. Remaining your guard as you emerge from the forest and steer yourself what it will undoubtedly be a brutal fight. You and Tav are spotted, and in this same moment, the reaction from the large force of cave goblins gathers in the ruins is much what you were anticipating. With a chorus of vicious snarls rising in the air, the foul humanoids bound forward to engage you. You turn, and then firmly plant your feet as you square yourself up with the first of 12 cave goblins you face. Several yards to your left, Tav is fighting valiantly among a small horde of vicious creatures. With a fierce battle cry, the cruel humanoid rushes forward and attacks. Death to the heathens. Keep it. Second 12. How's he doing? Hope he lives, because they're going to be mad at me. You turn. Oh, it's the 4th of 12 cave goblins. Alright. The 5th of 12. Wow. The 6th of 12. This is a whole army of goblins. I hope he's alright. 11th, 12th. Oh, it's the final one there. Is Tav alright? Turning away from the goblin corpses that live the ground before you, your eyes are immediately drawn to Tav. The young border ranger is sitting on the edge of the ruins, nursing a rather nasty gash in his forearm, not far from the pile of slain goblins his efficient handiwork has produced. You stride up to him and he grins sheepishly as he binds his arm around the wound with a piece of torn from his tunic. I might have been a farmer, but this is a whole bit too much to turn away from, he says, smoking. Suddenly, however, his eyes widen, he shouts a stark warning to you. Even before you heard his warning, the sound of a swift and soft footfalls across the broken terrain. Your back told you that something is moving up from behind. Spin to face the unknown danger, only find yourself staring at the blade of an axe speeding towards your head. The goblin, about to deliver the fatal blow, snarls viciously as the head of the axe cuts its deadly arc. You duck under the swipe of the goblin's axe and then swiftly spring to your feet. No desire to allow the large cave goblin another swipe at your head, you leap forward and attack the savage brute. Large axe-wielding goblin. Without a sound, the large cave goblin collapses into a bloody heap at your feet. His crude axe drops to the ground at his side. You make a quick search of his remains and those of the other slain goblins, but discovered little of interest and certainly nothing of any value. If you for a moment I'd have joined you. Just Tav, witnessing his cradle as he cradles his wounded arm. That's a lot of them. Let's get back to the horses. After taking a few minutes to scour the ruins, you become convinced that Tav was right, that any goblins lucky enough to survive the attack must be long gone by now. Without further delay, you head for the horses. You ride back to the ranger outpost. Proves quicker than either of you estimated, and just as dusk begins to drape itself across the frontier, the welcome sight of a fortified compound looms into view. Tav has been exceptionally quiet during the latter half of the trek, and you wonder if perhaps his steely bravado was struck a blow back at the ruined temple. The encounter with the cave goblins has served to remind you of the constant danger presented by the wilds, as they attempt to reclaim the borders that have ever been pressed back by the encroaching realm of men. There you have it. Hey, level 3, level 3, level 3. So I just have to go up a level every time and then do another adventure. When you discover a previously uncharted cave on the eastern edge of Fernwood, you decide to investigate it. Let's hit it. While returning from a routine scouting mission along the eastern edge of Fernwood Wood, which resulted in a visit to Milburn, and started apologizing for the giant of a man named Willibor, who you managed to subdue in a previous visit to the village, you passed through a tangled section of the forest known as Dead Leg Hollow. There, in a region festooned with rocky crags and dense pockets of firs, you happen upon the dark mouth of a cave set into the base of a steep mossy slope. You're certain that the cave does not appear on any of the maps you studied back at the outpost, and realize that it would greatly benefit you and your fellow rangers if you were able to explore and report on it. However, as you approach the cave, a faint odor of decay drifts out of the shadowy mouth, and your feeling swiftly comes over you, leading you to believe that the peril likely lurks in the dark recesses of this uncharted lair. Despite your sudden misgivings about the cave, you remain determined to fully explore it. After taking a final look at the forest that surrounds you, you boldly plunge into the gloomy interior of the cave. Let's take a look. The stench of decay overpowers your senses in the dank, festering interior of the uncharted cave. The sound of scurrying insects as they flee from the glow of your trusted light only adds to your uneasiness in the gloomy cave. To the west, the light of day filters in through the jagged mouth of the well-concealed cavern. You vow to remain within the dark and pleasant lair until you fully explore its depths. Okay. All the way northwards, going up. The passage ends at a small, natural alcove. At the back of the hollow, only a few yards from you, stands a large tri-jaw. The carnivorous predatory insect is currently facing away from you. It appears to be busy scavenging through the bones and debris that litter the floor of the alcove. You think that it might be able to stick over the beetle and deliver a decisive blow before you're spotted. Let's see what it is. Armed with 3 sets of powerful jaws, the aptly named tri-jaw prefers to attack its prey with its long, sharp horn. Once it incapacitated, the victim of the vicious beetle will quickly be devoured. Attack. You move stealthily up behind the suspecting tri-jaw and deal a large insect a staggering blow. Wounded but still very much alive, the fearsome beetle spins around and thrusts its long deadly horn at you as it swiftly counters your surprise attack. And now you're dead. Your final blow sends the beetle's shattered, oozing carcass crashing to the floor of the cave. Almost immediately a strong, nauseating odor rises up from the slain insect's remains. And wishing to linger here any longer than necessary, you make quick search of this section of the cave. Something on the debris-littered floor catches your eye. Bone dagger hilt. Amongst the bones and debris that litter the floor of this section of the cave, you discover the hilt of a dagger. The curious object carved out of the bone bears engravings of the letters J and I in its base. You decide to take the hilt with you. After searching for several minutes longer and finding nothing of any interest, you once again set off on your way through the cave. Alright, so similar stuff going on. Anything in this part of the cave? Nothing of interest. Gotcha. On this side, we might as well get rid of the vermin. Not right. What's this say? I thought I saw something else. South. The passage of the treasure. Okay. Nothing of interest. Alright, to the north. You progress along the cave passage, comes to an abrupt halt as a sinister shape looms into view out of the shadows ahead. A large tri-jaw, its long and sharp horn thrust wildly in the air after having caught sight of you, scuttles swiftly in your direction. Realizing the dangerous insect will be upon you in moments, you rapidly assume a defensive stand and prepare to combat. A pungent, nauseating odor rises up from the oozing carcass of the slain tri-jaw. Eager to move away from here, you quickly check over your equipment and then once again set off along the cave passage. Seriously, we just running across tri-jaws. Okay, I gotcha. Something good better be at the end of this cave. Nearing the end of the long passage, when your sense of smell is suddenly assailed by the overpowering stench of death and decay. That warning, a pair of large tri-jaws streak out of the darkness on either side of the broad natural corridor. The vicious, ravenous insects scuttle quickly along the passage toward you, their long horns thrusting wildly into the air as they approach. There's some tri-jaw. Now he's a dead tri-jaw. And another one. You step past the shattered, oozing remains of the two slain beetles and suddenly find yourself face to face with a massive tri-jaw. A fearsome insect, easily twice the size of any you've encountered thus far in the confines of this festering lair, charges out of the gloom at the end of the passage. You dodge the initial thrust before quickly countering its frenzied attack. The massive tri-jaw collapses to the cave floor. Its limbs twitch for several seconds before becoming still. You step back from the hideous carcass of the slain insect and wipe away the sweat now streaming down your brow. After having caught your breath and composing yourself following the brutal fight, you make a quick search and discover the following amidst the carnage and decay that fills the dead beetle's lair. Any Avari artifacts? There are not. Take the boots. Among the piles of debris heaped about the large hollow, you discover skeletal remains of 7 humans. You start to think of the gruesome fate that befell these hapless souls, though you console yourself with the knowledge that this particular tri-jaw will never again trouble anyone. After taking a few moments to check over your equipment, you turn and promptly make your way out of the cave, eager to return to the ranger compound. You return to the border ranger outpost without delay and immediately seek out Naruto, to whom you relate the details of your discovery in the forest. The ranger leader tells you that he's glad to know the cave and he marvels at your skill and daring for having undertaken such a dangerous task on your own. Sounds as if one more danger of these wilds has been removed, he says. Of course, in the course of relating your adventures in the cave of Naruto, you may mention the delicate hilt you discovered, and when you show the item, the leader of the ranger's eyes open wide and you closely examine your find. That belonged to Julon Ishelm, he says, turning the hilt so that the initials carved in it facing you. He was one of our own. He went out on the patrol almost a year ago and never returned. I think we now know what must have happened to him. I hope he is resting in peace in the arms of the Old Father. You tell Naruto to keep the hilt and he thanks you. Either the ranger stares at the hilt in silence several moments before putting it away. You sense that the hilt reminds him not only of one of his lost men, but also a dear friend. Naruto again thanks you for investigating the cave and asks you to spend some time with one of the older members of the outfit, a man named Tinya, so that he can properly update the maps. I can plainly see the time has come to trust you with the larger, more important missions, he says. There is one such mission being planned now, and I should very much like to give you its lead role. We'll talk about it in a little while. The leader of the outpost steps forward and initiates a shoulder cross. I'll be able to give you the details of the upcoming mission quite soon, says Naruto as you prepare to depart. Oh, and Allison, mind yourself with Tinya. He's a bit, well, just mind yourself is all. What does that mean? You bid the ranger leader farewell and head off to find the warmth of the outpost continuously blazing fire. Trail of Death. Wow, we're not gonna start that. I'm gonna do some upgrades to my castle. And then we're going to end the episode there a little early. Let's see, do we have any improvements to make? We do. Let's do that. Yes, we need the best bed for sure. And yes, it's been quite some time since I've seen candles. I have some functional stuff. But not really interested in that right now. Like I said, we're going to end the episode a little bit early here. The next one we'll just spend some more time with the border rangers and ranking up there, I think, before moving on to the last area of the map we haven't visited. And then, you know, once I've seemed to have done every adventure, we'll go back through and look for more, huh? Because there's always something to add. There's always something to do here in the world of Sryth. So thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Peace.